Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. I am Mark Givler. I've got Tony Gerdeman with me here today. We're going to be breaking down new Ohio State defensive back commit Khmari Bing, who flipped this week from Maryland to the Buckeyes after visiting October 4th weekend for the Minnesota game. Took about a week and a half to stew on things and opted to pick Ohio State over Alabama. He was set to possibly visit Alabama in November. Unless something changes back again, that's now off. Buckeyes beat out the Crimson Tide for the fast rising prospect out of St. Francis Academy in Maryland. The first thing, and I don't want to jinx this, I promise I'm not trying to, but the idea that Ohio State would break the Mater Dei and St. Francis Academy curses in the exact same cycle is preposterous. I would imagine that two-leg parlay is longer odds than winning the lottery. So can they close this thing out over the last 2 months and actually land a Mater Dei and St. Francis kid in the same class?
Well, does it count if, like being transferred from Olney, good counsel? So there is some history there. Like, is that what it took? It took some familiarity from another school to go ahead and break this curse. So does it count if
and it took shipping Chris Henry out to Mater Dei to poison the waters out there?
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, some serious some psychological warfare going on right now by Ryan Day and the Buckeyes. But this is I never thought once Blake would be decommitted and went to Auburn, I'm like, that's it. The St. Francis thing it's just never going to happen. The curse of Biff Poggi is just too strong, and it's just never going to happen. But here we are, and Ohio State picks up a guy I really like. I actually got to watch him back in August. They played Chaminade Madonna down in South Florida as part of the Broward County Showcase, which I covered, and St. Francis gave Chaminade a nice little beating, and quite frankly, that St. Francis defense, just in general, is one of the greatest high school defenses I've ever seen. Incredible team speed, incredible physicality. Just the way they run and hit was unlike really. I mean, I'm trying to think of the last time I really saw something like that, and I would have to go back. I saw a good council team. Oh boy, probably a dozen years or so. It had Stephon Diggs on it, but it also had like Eddie Goldman at defensive tackle and a bunch of like stars on defense. That was up there. And then like that great Glenville defense that had LaTuan Anderson and Christian Bryant and Jaron Elliott and a bunch of guys who ended up either being 5-star guys or played in the some of them played may even played in the NFL. They had a bunch of Frank Clark, I think, was on that team. Like that is what it reminded me of watching St. Francis's defense. That is just
Willie Henry.
Yes. That was an unbelievable defensive team. And that's what it reminded me of watching St. Francis, with Xylon Ely on at end, and they have a stud corner in 27 Ohio State's recruiting. Like they had linebackers that could run. They were knocking guys out of the game. Like it was super, super impressive. And Kamari Bing was a big part of that with his ability to run, cover, and hit. And he had a pick 6 in the game, which we'll show you shortly. But Tony, they needed a guy like this. Andrew Ellis and I have been talking about it on the show. They need another safety and another corner in this class. Bing's going to be a free safety for the Buckeyes, so now they have their safety.
Yeah, I know he's 24/7 lists him as a corner, but the last 2 years he's played pretty exclusively free safety and seems pretty comfortable there and views himself as a safety, which a lot of times these high school safeties or whatever, they everybody views themselves as a cornerback, and sometimes high schools will put a corner at safety so they can cover more ground and do more things. He's okay being a safety. It's like a guard who's okay being a guard and doesn't have to be a tackle. He's perfectly happy there. And, he's interesting because he sure finds the ball well, and he's got good enough size, but you see him make a play here and take it back and jump in front there of the route and just go and get it. So I think when you look at the rankings, this is one of those always look at the offers and the interests. over the rankings, because there'll be times where you see a top 40 guy and you're like, boy, these are some soft offers, and just, wait for the schools to come in. And this one, Miami was interested. And as you said, it came down to Ohio State and Alabama. That's good enough for me. And so, we'll see how it goes. But Maryland produces defensive backs. I think we would agree with that.
Yes, they do. And again, having seen him in person, just the way he is able to cover sideline to sideline is super impressive. He's very athletic, very fast. Also plays physical. You don't play at St. Francis if you don't hit. You just don't play defense there. But he is a true center fielder with tremendous tackling ability. As you see him there standing up a running back, it might have been Derek Cooper actually. But he just patrols that center field exactly as you would want him to, and I think a great compliment to another guy they're trying to hold on to, who I feel like they will, in Blaine Bradford, the 5-star safety out of Baton Rouge. So if you're looking at this now, wondering how this all fits together, consider Khmari Bing to be the Jalen McClain and Blaine Bradford to be the Caleb Downs. That's how Ohio State is viewing this combination. And Bing's range and coverage skills will allow him to play kind of a deep center field spot. But I think this is a very underrated get. This was a guy, again, who has really emerged this year as a senior. And I've said this before. About other players, some that Ohio State's landed, some that they haven't, which is the guys who get really, really good at the end of their high school careers, the hit rate on those guys is so much higher. The late bloomers, like the Jahmyr Gibbs, those types of guys who kind of come out of nowhere, not totally out of nowhere, but kind of, seem to improve tremendously from like junior to senior year. Those guys have a really high hit rate. This guy plays maybe the best schedule in the country. St. Francis's schedule is nuts. They play everywhere. They go all over the country. They play every week's a major opponent, it feels like. And he's starring in these games. He's being one of the best players on the field. He's got the number one player in the country, according to many, on his own defense. He still is making standout plays. They've got a bunch of defensive backs that are Division I guys. He still stands out among that group. So I think I don't say this about everybody. This isn't my company line thing. I don't say this a lot, but I think this is a guy who will see his ranking improve greatly between now and when the dust settles in February.
Mark, you stole my comp. I was going to go with Jalen McClain, who finds the football, is not the biggest guy, but it doesn't matter. Can play strong safety, can play free safety, and has to in this Ohio State defense. So when you talk about putting him together with Blaine Bradford, Caleb Downs moves all over the place. So Jalen McClain has to be able to handle everything behind him. So, McClain was more of maybe a strong safety type in high school, and that's kind of what he did last year. But now he has to be that deep guy at times. And when you watch Kamari Bing, you see that as well. And then he can also go from 15 to 18 yards from the line of scrimmage to the line of scrimmage pretty quickly, which is what the Ohio State job will require as well. That's something that Jalen McClain excels at. So, that's as I'm looking for somebody who is corner size but plays safety. I like that Jalen McClain comparison. And I think Ohio State fans like it more now than they would have a year ago.
Yeah, definitely. And the guy even right now, I don't want to go and say, oh, he's going to be better than this guy, because you always get in trouble there. But I do think he's a little faster than this guy. But in terms of the skill set he brings to the table, he does remind me a little bit of Jordan Fuller, who played a lot of corner in high school. But Jordan Fuller had a knack to kind of, make plays back as a free safety, but was also a good run defender. So he's got a little bit of Jordan Fuller in him for me. But again, I watched the tape, and I saw quite a bit of Jordan in high school. I watched him with his high school team. I watched him at Army Bowl, and Kamari seems to be a little more explosive of an athlete, which is why I think Fuller didn't go higher in his draft year.
Well, and Jordan Fuller was a cornerback at Ohio State for about 2 days before they moved him to safety, where he was in the two deep as a true freshman, and then an outstanding starter for the last 2 years of his career, and really good as that last line of defense when they were playing a one high safety, and he was that one high, and an outstanding tackler. So I don't think that should that comparison should bother anybody either. And to tell you how good Jordan Fuller was, he replaced Malik Hooker, and nobody was like, boy, I sure miss Malik Hooker. Like
Right.
he to be able to do that is pretty incredible.
Yeah, so I really like this pickup. This kid looks like a multi-year starter to me at Ohio State. He's going to have to come in and play in a pretty good room there, his first year on campus. But I think this is a guy who's got a lot of physical tools. And if somehow, some way, this program, this Ohio State program, opens up a pathway into St. Francis and opens up a pathway into Mater Dei, because they've got a very good shot at Danny Lang at Mater Dei in 2027. They're recruiting a lot of the St. Francis underclassmen. If that somehow becomes a thing, look out, because these are two of the best high school programs in the country that Ohio State has been just bridesmaid. And if they can actually break through here and get some things rolling, and Khmari Bing's already made some comments about wanting to kind of open the pipeline, very much similar to how Caden Dixon Wyatt and Chris Henry Jr. have talked about with Danny Lang and trying to get him. And Danny Lang's talked about maybe continuing the pipeline. So if that becomes a thing on either coast, I mean, that's a heck of a situation that Ohio State could find itself in. But I really like the pickup. They needed a safety. Everyone, when Jacob Weatherspoon decommitted, do they need a corner? They need both. And so now they've got their safety situation settled, so long as they can hold on to Blaine Bradford. I know LSU is still pushing there. I still think Ohio State's going to fend them off. Ohio State seems fairly confident that they will. LSU is going to keep stoking the flames there and trying to mess that up for Ohio State any way they can, but they're still holding on to them as of recording. They're still in the driver's seat there to sign and keep Blaine Bradford. This is a perfect compliment to him, and now they can really kind of focus on, okay, who's going to be that corner, because I still think they need a corner in this class as well. They're just churning. You have so many players who are like 3-and-done caliber guys in a room where you're churning guys to the NFL every year, and it's just, you got to replenish it.
Well, and the interesting thing is, the earlier and earlier that coaches get fired, the clearer and clearer the picture of the decommits come up. Then you can start getting involved with them before the first December signing day. So it is interesting. That's one of the, one of the benefits of coaches getting fired earlier and earlier now is that you can go pick off some guys that are looking to get picked off a lot easier than you could in the past. Yeah,
and Ohio State's going to be very aggressive in that. I know as we move forward, people are wondering where some of these things are going to come from. Where's the corner going to come from? Where's the defensive line going to come from? Like, I get that, but the coaching carousel is just starting to spin. I mean, my goodness, we've got rumors now that Florida's going to move on from Napier within the next week. You got to think the Florida State situation's on thin ice right now with their 3-game losing streak. I don't even know if these schools. I'm going to throw out some more. I don't even know if there's specific guys. Certainly there is at Wisconsin with Latimer, the running back that Ohio State's recruiting. Is Ohio State going to be the nail in the coffin for Luke Fickell this weekend? Or as Chip Minnick and I talked on the Around the Big Ten podcast, will it be the Oregon game with the bye week after that? But I mean, there's going to be a lot of jobs still to come open, and Ohio State's going to be very, very vigilant in seeing if there's some things there they can take advantage of. But we're seeing our first kind of domino fall here. Loxley hasn't been fired at Maryland, but that seems to be on a bit shaky ground as well, too, with kind of the games they've blown the last few weeks, too. So we'll see what pops up around the country. Tony, any parting thoughts here? I know it's been a really good week for Ohio State. We're recording this right on the heels of Jameer Weiss coming off the board, 2028 defensive lineman from Ohio. So a really nice fans have been kind of waiting, like, we got to get some good recruiting news. It's been a really good week for the Buckeyes so far.
Yeah, it has, and they may have preferred a 2026 5-star defensive lineman and a 2028 3-star defensive back. Have this switched around, but like you said, I like what the possibilities here with Bing, and he has the right temperament, and they are recruiting temperament, and to be able to be a piece of a very good defense, an unselfish piece, and an unselfish, productive piece of a very good defense. that's what Ohio State's looking for their defense right now as well.
Yep. So we will be talking about this on BuckeyeHuddle.com. So head on over there if you haven't already. Tony will be in Madison, Wisconsin this weekend covering the Buckeyes at the Badgers as the Buckeyes try and stay undefeated and number 1 in the country. So just keep it locked in at BuckeyeHuddle.com for all his coverage from Madison, and also here, of course, the YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You're going to want to get notified when our live shows happen. We do post-game live, where if you're not familiar, we sit here. You get me talking about the game, the keys of the game. Then you get the press conferences. We stream live. We see Ryan Day's press conference live, and then Tony and Tom Orr and all our other guys come on afterwards and do their own recap from on the scene of the game. So it's a good time. If you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, you get notified when we go live for shows like that. And sometimes Tony and Tom go live on scene before the game, either the night before or the morning of, whatever. So make sure you're subscribed so you get all those notifications. Tony, what are you looking? Where are you eating in Madison?
Well, there's a place called the Babcock Dairy Store on campus that we went to a couple years ago, and I had just one of the best deli sandwiches ever. And so I might head back there. The staple is Mickey's Dairy Bar, but that's usually too crowded to get in there. So maybe just a simple little sandwich and some chips, maybe some ice cream there in Madison. But it's also a big night of college football. So, we've got that to watch as well. Looking forward to that Friday night.
Cheese curds or no? You're not.
No, we will definitely hit some cheese curds at some point. We just don't know when. We have talked about it. We'll figure it out, and it may just have to be at Culver's at some point. But I'm hoping
you can get Culver's here.
Exactly, but it's
find something local
in terms of getting it done. But I wouldn't be shocked if they have them in the press box.
That's true.
We'll see. Because I do remember a story years and years ago. John Parentis at the Ozone, in the press box meal there, he asked the lady dealing with the meal, like, "Is there salad?" And she's like, "Sir, this is Wisconsin. We have meats and cheeses, so partake."
Oh, the Midwest.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. All right. Well, we'll look forward to the coverage of that and see if the Buckeyes can stay on the winning track against former Buckeye Luke Fickell. But thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. And again, stay tuned for more coverage of the Buckeyes and Ohio State recruiting.